chosen one. The divine tribunal has cleared, and your total vindication is now a matter of public record. As the truth of the calculated season spent on your destruction surfaces, the atmosphere has shifted into a profound shock. Somebody's behavior towards you has people appalled. They cannot believe you lived through that. You did not fold. You showed up every day with your integrity intact, proving you are built from something most people could never imagine. Every great arc has a moment where the villain makes their defining mistake. It is the moment they point at someone and say, "That one, that is the one I am going to take down." And in choosing you, they signed the first page of their own downfall. They just did not know it yet. They saw someone who carried themselves with a quiet certainty that they could not manufacture, no matter how hard they tried. They saw someone who moved through life and caused something to shift wherever you went. Not because you were performing, not because you were trying to be anything in particular, but simply because of what you naturally carry, your energy, your presence. The way you made people feel seen and warm without even trying. The way good things seemed to find you. The way you bounced back from things that would have permanently flattened other people. The way your smile never looked like it was working hard, and something inside that person could not take it. Understand this: envy is never about what you have. Envy is about what someone else sees in you that they do not see in themselves. Your smile was not just a smile to that person, it was a mirror, and they despised what the mirror showed them about themselves every single time they were near you. So, a decision got made. You were going to be knocked down so many notches that the mirror would finally stop bothering them. You were going to be made small enough that they could feel big enough. Your light was going to be dimmed so they would not have to feel so dark standing next to you. This is where everything begins, with that decision, with the moment you were identified as the problem, not because you were one, but because your very existence exposed someone else's lack. That single jealousy-fueled, small-hearted decision set something in motion that could never have been predicted. It started a chain of events that has been unfolding ever since. And right now, at this exact moment, we are at the part of that chain where it reaches them. Type "still standing" in the comments right now, not as a boast, as a record. Enter it into the public account that you were targeted, that the operation ran, and that you are still here. The tribunal is taking note of every witness who speaks up. Let your name be in that record. While you were living your life, waking up, going about your business, trying to build something, trying to move forward, a whole campaign was being run against you quietly, methodically, deliberately. It was happening behind your back, in spaces you were not invited into, at tables you did not even know existed. Whispers were being planted in the ears of people who trusted the wrong source. True things about you were being bent just enough to make them look damaging. Fabricated things were being wrapped in just enough believability to make them stick. Your opportunities were being quietly sabotaged. Your connections were being poisoned before they could fully form. Situations were being orchestrated specifically to make you appear unstable, untrustworthy, or less than, because the goal was never to beat you fairly. The goal was to make sure you never got the chance to be seen clearly. All of it was happening behind a mask of concern. All of it was being executed while performing care, while smiling directly to your face. The most dangerous opposition does not announce itself. It wages war while pretending to be your ally, and that is exactly what was being done to you. While all of that was happening in the shadows, you kept going. Not because you knew what was happening and heroically overcame it. You kept going because something deep in you simply refused to stop, even when you had no idea why the path felt so impossibly heavy. Even when you could not name what was working against you, even when the confusion was thick and the weight was real and the exhaustion was genuine, something in you kept moving anyway. That is not ordinary strength. Ordinary strength fights what it can see. what you carry, what you demonstrated without even knowing you were demonstrating it, is the kind of strength that operates on a frequency that sabotage simply cannot access. The attack was aimed at your circumstances, but it could never reach your core, and the entire time the outside was being pressured. Something on the inside was quietly getting stronger. Someone is in the middle of that exact season right now, still in the dark, still carrying a weight they cannot name, still wondering why the path feels this heavy when they have done nothing to deserve it. The campaign is running against them, and no one has handed them the document that says it is not their fault. This message is one of the things that can reach them before they collapse under the weight of something they cannot yet see clearly. Through the link in the description or the pinned comment, plant a seed into this mission, not into a channel, into the case file that keeps traveling until it finds the person who needs to read their own vindication before it fully arrives. A coffee, a seed, or a seat as a co-owner of what gets documented from here. Bring into your seed the version of yourself that kept moving when you had no evidence it was worth it. The season where something in you refused to stop, even when everything around you was designed to make you stop. Place that inside what you release, and trust that the same force that was keeping records in the dark is the force now moving your seed into the right hands. The tribunal does not only vindicate, it also reaches. Your seed is how it reaches further. What people are now discovering is that the opposition against you was not casual. There is a meaningful difference between someone who vents in frustration about another person and someone who deliberately runs a managed operation. What is coming to light is that information about you was being carefully controlled. Each person in the circle was being fed a version of you tailored specifically to keep them in line. One version here, a different version there. Always managed to make sure the accounts never directly collided, but always making you the common denominator in whatever damage was being caused. When people started comparing notes, the operation began to collapse. When someone who had been told one thing encountered someone who had been told something entirely different, the constructed accounts no longer held. The only explanation that made all the pieces fit was the one nobody wanted to believe at first, that it was manufactured, that it was deliberate, that what was done to you was never a conflict that spiraled out of control. It was a construction, carefully architected, strategically maintained, and aimed entirely at you. People who discover this do not just feel surprised, they feel disturbed because it reveals a pattern of behavior, and patterns, unlike excuses, do not lie. Every single thing done against you in the dark was being recorded, not by human hands, not in any file that could be found or destroyed. The full account was being kept by something far greater, and the reckoning for that account was already scheduled long before anyone on the outside started to notice anything. Type 444 in the comments right now. 444 is the number of angelic witnesses, the confirmation that what was done against you in the dark was seen and recorded by something no managed narrative could reach. Every lie that was circulated, every door that was closed against you, every whisper that was planted, all of it is in the record. Let 444 be your acknowledgement that the recording was never stopped. If this message speaks to your soul, hype this video so other chosen ones can discover it. There were seasons where you were genuinely not okay. The manufactured confusion got inside your head. You started to wonder, am I actually the problem here? You started to internalize the damage that was being deliberately placed around you. You looked at yourself and heard someone else's critical voice playing back instead of your own. That was the most sophisticated layer of the attack. Direct hits are visible, you can see them coming, and you can defend against them. But when your entire environment is being slowly orchestrated to make you doubt yourself, when the people around you are being quietly turned, when opportunities keep dissolving without explanation, when you keep getting blindsided by things that make no rational sense, eventually the mind goes searching for a pattern. And if the only consistent common denominator the mind can identify is you, the mind begins to turn against you. That was the goal all along, to engineer your collapse from the inside, to let the self-doubt finish the job, to get you to quit not because you had been beaten in any honest competition, but because you had been convinced to disqualify yourself. And there were real, raw, private moments where that strategy came dangerously close to working. You did not quit. Not because quitting did not feel tempting, not because the weight was not real, but because something underneath all of that confusion, underneath all of that manufactured chaos, already knew the truth, even when you could not prove it, even when you could not put it into words, even when no one around you fully understood what you were carrying. Something in you already knew. This is not my doing. This is not who I am, and this is not how my story ends. That quiet knowing was the turning point, gathering beneath the surface. And it was about to change everything. It is not just that the truth is coming out. It is the specific reactions of the people receiving it, and those reactions tell you something very important about exactly where you stand right now. When people find out what was done to you, the first response is disbelief. Not the polite, diplomatic kind. The genuine, wide-eyed need to sit down for a moment kind of disbelief. Because in their minds, what they are learning does not match the person they thought they knew on the other side of this situation. They assumed it was a conflict, a falling out, maybe some tension between two people that got messy. That is manageable. That is something most people can relate to from their own experience. But when they understand that this was not a conflict, but a campaign, that it was not a falling out, but a coordinated takedown attempt, that the behavior reached levels most people would not even consider, let alone actually execute over a sustained period of time, that is when disbelief shifts into something sharper. That is when people stop saying, "Wow, that is wild," and start asking real questions. Questions like, who genuinely does that? Who invests that level of deliberate, sustained misery into another person's life? Who makes the conscious choice repeatedly, over and over again, to do what was done to you? Type 1111 in the comments right now. 1111 is the alignment code that fires at the exact moment the constructed narrative cracks open. One question asked, one account that did not match another, one crack, that truth only needed to begin the collapse. If you felt that moment in your own life, the moment the first piece fell into place, let 1111 be the mark of it. And then they look at you with the full picture in mind. What crosses their faces is layered and unmistakable. There is compassion in it. Yes, but there is also something that unmistakably resembles awe, because the version of you they are now seeing, the version that endured all of that and still maintained character, still kept moving forward, still refused to become bitter or closed off or vengeful. That version of you is someone they did not fully understand until this moment. Some of them want to fight for you. That is worth naming plainly. There are people in your orbit right now and just outside of it who are genuinely activated on your behalf. The kind of activated that wants to do something concrete and meaningful, wants to make it right, wants to make sure that what was done to you carries a consequence that is proportional to the offense. Justice has its own gravity. When people witness something clearly and undeniably wrong, something inside them rises to correct it, and some of them want to get closer to you. That is not incidental. That is deeply significant. When the full truth of what you survived becomes visible to people with real discernment and real character, it does not push them away, it pulls them in. It makes them want to be near someone who went through the fire and came out walking. Your journey is not a liability, it is a magnet, and right now it is drawing exactly the right people directly toward you. Truth leaks. That is simply its nature. You can cap it, suppress it, bury it under layers of noise and manufactured narrative, and it will still find a crack. Truth is patient in a way that deception can never afford to be. Lies require constant, exhausting maintenance. They require constant energy, constant vigilance, and constant management to make sure all the circulating versions still align. that all the people involved still believe what they were sold, and that all the moving pieces are still holding together. Truth requires none of that. Truth only requires time. As time passed, something was noticeably shifting. A conversation happened between two people who had been fed different versions of the same account, and suddenly the versions did not match each other. Someone who had been told something specific about you then had a direct experience with you that completely contradicted what they had been told. A detail emerged that simply did not fit the narrative being maintained. An account was repeated, one too many times, and someone finally asked the one question that had no clean or comfortable answer. One crack. That was all truth needed. And from that single crack, the entire constructed structure began to reveal its weakness. People started comparing notes. They started connecting pieces. The picture that was forming, the real, full, unmanaged picture, looked nothing like what they had been told to see. The chaos they had been led to believe you were creating kept turning out to be chaos that was actually being directed at you. The character they had been handed a description of kept turning out to be a costume someone else had dressed you in without your knowledge or consent. What people are now seeing is making them appalled. Not at you, at what was deliberately done to you, at the sustained and calculated cruelty of the operation, and the unfolding is not over. More is still coming to light. Every new piece that falls into place makes your name cleaner, your character clearer, and the full truth more undeniable. There is a divine reckoning, a cosmic tribunal where every piece of evidence is on the table. Every lie is exposed, every manipulation is documented, every false accusation is held directly up against the full and unfiltered truth. No spin, no managed versions, no selective presentation of facts, just the complete unredacted truth about everything that was done, everything that was said, and every hand that moved against you in the dark. The verdict: not guilty on everything. Dismissed, cleared, fully, completely, and unambiguously exonerated. That is where you are right now. The moment has arrived, and your vindication does not just clear your name, it simultaneously collapses the entire construction that was built against you. Every truth that confirms who you really are is the exact same truth that exposes what was really happening in the shadows. You cannot receive one without the other. The same light that shows your character clean reveals the opposing character for precisely what it was. Type exonerated in the comments right now, not as emotion, as a formal entry into the public record. The tribunal has ruled. The verdict is final. Let it be stated openly, clearly, and without qualification: you were cleared. Let that word exist in the open where it belongs. Now, here is the specific element that is hitting people the hardest. It is not just that the harmful behavior happened, it is that it was unnecessary. That word keeps surfacing consistently in every conversation people are having about what was done to you. Unnecessary, because even if every grievance held against you was completely genuine, even if every frustration and every perceived slight was real, what was chosen in response went so far beyond anything proportionate that it moved entirely out of the territory of conflict and into the territory of deliberate cruelty. Nobody who witnesses the full picture can call any of it justified. What was done to you was excessive, obsessive, and at its core, deeply unnecessary. You were put through all of that for nothing, for ego, for insecurity, for someone's inability to simply sit with the discomfort of being near a person who carries more light than they do. You were weaponized against by someone who had direct access to you and to the people around you. And not one single calculated move in that entire operation was necessary. That word is now permanently attached to how that person is perceived. It surfaces in every conversation. It becomes the defining reference point that overshadows everything else. When a structure built on deception loses its foundation, it does not crumble gradually or gracefully. It collapses fast, The alliances that were built against you are fracturing. Nobody wants to be associated with what is now coming fully into the open. The people who were recruited into the operation, the ones who passed whispers along, who maintained distance from you based entirely on what they had been told, are quietly stepping away from the whole situation. Not with drama, not with any public announcement, just deliberate, measured, permanent distance. The support system around that person is visibly thinning. Check-ins have slowed to almost nothing. Invitations have become rare, not because anyone made a dramatic declaration, but because something fundamental shifted in how people feel when they are around that energy now. A discomfort is present that was never there before, a quiet guilt by association that nobody wants to carry. Meanwhile, every door that was used against you is reopening. Every connection that was poisoned is healing or being replaced by something far more aligned and far better. The chaos that was designed specifically for your life found its way directly back to its source. It did not transfer to you the way it was intended to. It compounded on the person who sent it, and the contrast between where you are headed and where that person currently stands is not lost on a single person who is paying attention. You are free. Not partially free, not almost free, fully, completely. And on all charges free, and freedom, after carrying everything you carried, does not feel like relief alone. It feels like acceleration. It feels like the wind shifting direction all at once. It feels like a weight releasing from your body that you had been carrying for so long you forgot what it felt like to stand without it. Think of a vehicle that has been trying to move forward with its brakes fully engaged. The engine was always powerful, the destination was always real, but something was creating constant resistance, constant friction, and constant drag against every effort you made, and then the brakes release. You did not receive a new engine. The power was always yours. You simply had something working forcefully against it. Now you do not. That is your life right now. You are launching with everything you already possess. Every skill, every gift, every layer of wisdom that was forged in the fire. You are now free to move forward without being dragged back. The person who was just declared free does not sit quietly with the verdict and wait for permission to move. Exoneration is not the end of the case file, it is the first page of the next one. And the next one is not about survival. It is about what gets built now that the brakes are off. There are people still inside what you just came out of, still in the manufactured confusion, still internalizing damage that was placed around them deliberately, still wondering why the path feels this impossible when they have done nothing to deserve it. No one has handed them the document yet. No one has told them the tribunal exists. Through the link in the description or the pinned comment, plant a seed into this mission, into the case file that keeps traveling, into the verdict that finds the next person before they finish disqualifying themselves. A coffee, a seed, or a seat as a co-owner of what this mission is building, not a general intention. Bring the specific door that was closed against you most recently, the connection that was poisoned, the opportunity that dissolved without explanation. Place that inside what you release, and trust that the same force that reopened every door used against you is moving on that specific thing right now. The exonerated move, your seed, is your first move as a free person. The momentum that was always yours by right is now yours in reality. And because of what you developed while navigating that level of difficulty, you are not just moving, you are moving with precision, with discernment, and with a depth that comfortable, uncontested paths simply do not produce in a person. You are not moving alone either. A companion is entering this next chapter of your life, not someone who is drawn to your struggle, not someone who needs you to stay diminished in order to feel relevant or needed, someone who is your equal, someone whose own light does not compete with yours, it matches yours, someone who looks at the full account of your journey and moves toward you because of it, not in spite of it. Someone who is genuinely invested in where you are going because your destination and theirs are pointing in the same direction. There is one word that needs to be used carefully here because it is real and it deserves to be received in full. That word is reward, not a consolation prize, not a resigned at least something good came of it. A genuine, specific, and personalized reward for making it through what you made it through with your character completely intact. A divine acknowledgement that the path was harder than it ever should have been, and that you stayed on it anyway. For some of you, the reward is material, resources, opportunities, connections, offers, and openings that were always in your future, but simply could not reach you while the interference was blocking the path. Those things are now moving toward you with a momentum that is going to feel almost disorienting. After so long fighting for every inch of progress, one opening leads directly to 3 more. A single, honest conversation leads to a connection that leads to an opportunity you would not have known to ask for. That is the return on every seed you planted while you were still standing in the middle of the storm. For some of you, the reward is relational. The right people are finding you. The wrong ones are quietly disqualifying themselves. The social landscape around you is finally beginning to reflect your actual character rather than the constructed version someone else was actively distributing. For some of you, the reward is larger in scope than you have yet allowed yourself to imagine. Your testimony is needed in spaces you have not yet entered. What you survived and the way you survived it is the kind of account that does not just inspire people, it changes them at a cellular level. It reaches them in the specific places that polished, comfortable success narratives simply cannot access. And here is the part of the reward that rarely gets named. It is the full restoration of your trust in yourself. One of the quietest casualties of a sustained operation against you is your relationship with your own instincts. When your environment is being managed from the outside and your relationships are being influenced without you, eventually you stop fully trusting your own read of situations. You begin overriding your gut. You dismiss the moments where something clearly felt wrong because the version of events you were being sold made your own instincts seem paranoid or unreliable. That is over now because the truth has confirmed everything you already felt. Every time something felt wrong, and you could not name it, it was wrong. Every time you sensed a situation was being managed, and you talked yourself out of the feeling, it was being managed. Your instincts were never broken. They were accurate the entire time. Knowing that restores something permanent and foundational in you, you can trust yourself again fully, without apology and without hesitation. And that restored self-trust is going to protect everything you build from this point forward. Type "My instincts were right" in the comments. Not as vindication over anyone else. As a restoration of the record you kept overriding while the operation was running. The moments you felt something was wrong and talked yourself out of it. The gut reads you dismissed because the managed narrative made your instincts seem like the problem. Enter it into the public record now. Your instincts were right. They were right the entire time. Type 777 in the comments right now. 777 is divine completion, the code that fires when the case is fully closed, the record fully sealed, and the verdict fully entered. Nothing more to prove, nothing more to survive. The file is complete. Let 777 mark the closing of the case against you. Something needs to be said plainly. What you went through is not ordinary, not in the casual sense of everybody goes through something difficult. That general truth does not apply here because what happened to you is not in the same category as a hard season, a rough patch, or a relationship that simply did not work out. What happened to you was targeted, it was sustained, it was calculated, and the fact that you have been living your life, moving forward, and continuing to function without fully processing the abnormality of what was done to you. That says everything about your level of resilience and absolutely nothing about whether it was acceptable. It was not acceptable. The people who are learning the full picture are not offering measured responses like, well, both sides probably have valid points. They are saying plainly and without hesitation, what was done to you was not okay. And the fact that you carried all of that without collapsing completely, without losing yourself in the process, without becoming bitter, hardened, or weaponized, that is not a level of endurance that should have been required of you simply to exist in your own life. Because you kept walking through things that were genuinely not ordinary, you may have normalized them without realizing it. You may have started to quietly accept that this is simply what your life looks like, that this is just how hard things tend to be for you, that maybe this is what you attract into your experience. No, that is not what you attract. That is what was being actively directed at you by someone operating from a very specific and very dark place. And the distinction between those two realities matters enormously. If you believe that the difficulty was somehow originating from within you, you internalize it, you carry it forward, you unknowingly build your identity around surviving it. But if you clearly understand that the difficulty was being manufactured from the outside by someone with a deliberate agenda, you can set it down. You can see it for exactly what it was, and you can stop treating the scar like it is your personality. The people watching your vindication unfold right now see clearly what you may have had to blur just to keep yourself functioning day to day. And their reaction, the shock, the absolute appalled disbelief. The sincere "I cannot believe you lived through that" is not pity. It is recognition. It is witness. It is the world finally looking at your full account and calling it exactly what it is. You did not go through what everybody goes through. You went through something specific, something targeted, and something that required a particular kind of person to survive with their spirit. Intact, you were that person. You still are. Now carry yourself like it. Here is the revelation that has been hiding inside everything that happened to you. You were targeted because something in you genuinely terrified the person who came for you. A light, a calling, a force that was already moving towards something significant, even if you could not fully see the destination yet. And in trying to stop it, in investing all of that energy, obsession, and calculation into shutting you down, the only real outcome was confirmation of your significance. You do not spend that level of sustained effort on someone who is not going anywhere meaningful. You do not risk those kinds of serious consequences for someone who does not genuinely matter. You do not wage that kind of prolonged war on someone who does not represent a real threat to the version of reality you are desperately trying to protect. The attack itself was the testimony. The entire campaign was the evidence. And now that the full picture is visible, now that the lengths, the lows, and the sustained obsession can be seen clearly, what people are actually witnessing is everything that attack proves about you. You were chosen long before any of this started. The attack did not create your destiny. It confirmed it, it refined it. It added layers of depth and an unshakable quality to your foundation that comfort and ease could never have produced. The fire did not consume you, it revealed you. It burned away everything that was not real and left behind everything that genuinely is. The person who was just described, the one the fire revealed rather than consumed, does not keep what was forged in the fire to themselves. What you became inside that operation, the precision, the discernment, the depth that comfortable paths cannot produce, that is not a private possession, it is a testimony that travels. It reaches people still inside their fire, who cannot yet see that it is forming them rather than finishing them. Through the link in the description or the pinned comment, plant a seed into this mission, into the case file that finds the next chosen one before the manufactured confusion convinces them to disqualify themselves. A coffee, a seed, or a seat as a co-owner of what this archive is building, not a general release. Bring the specific thing the fire was trying to burn away, that it could not touch, the part of you that remained intact when everything around it was being pressured. The quality they could not manufacture in themselves and could not take from you no matter what they tried. Place that alongside your seed and trust that what survived the fire in you is exactly what will reach the next person still inside theirs. They built the fire to end you, you used it to become. Your seed is proof that the becoming is real. Type 888 in the comments right now. 888 is the number of the new era beginning, the code that fires when what was refined in the fire steps into the open for the first time. The fire is done. The revealing has happened. Let 888 be the sound of the first step into everything that comes after. Now you move forward as that refined version on a clear path with aligned companions entering your life, with your name being spoken in the right conversations, doing the work you were always built to do. Not in spite of what you went through, because of it, with the full weight of that journey behind you. Everything you do now carries a gravity and a credibility that simply cannot be faked, purchased, or imitated. They meant it for your destruction. The universe used it for your elevation. The very behaviors that have people appalled right now, the lengths, the lows, the unnecessary and excessive nature of every deliberate choice made against you. Those behaviors became the instrument of their own complete unraveling. The opposition did not fail to destroy you despite doing all of those things. The opposition failed to destroy you because of all of those things, because every move made in the dark left a record. Every lie required another lie to support it. Every person brought into the operation became a potential witness to the truth. Every door closed against you became a documented injustice. Every false accusation left a trail that, when followed back to its origin, pointed directly at the source. A case was being built against themselves in the very act of trying to construct one against you. That is the divine irony at the absolute center of everything. The same force that was invested in your destruction became the evidence for their own exposure. You did not have to do anything except survive. The universe handled everything else with perfect, unhurried, and absolute precision. They built the fire to end you. You used it to become. Now everybody can see what you became. The people who were turned against you see it and are recalibrating. Those who are just now learning your name see it and lean in with interest. The divine hand that permitted every single thing you went through sees it and calls it good, because what was intended for your destruction became the defining proof of your selection. This is not the end of your journey. This is the end of the section that was designed to be your conclusion, but became your introduction to who you actually are, to what you are actually made of, and to what you are actually here to do. The path is clear. The momentum is real. The reward is being released. The right companion is on the way. Your name is rising. Everything is opening. And you, chosen one, are just getting started. Subscribe. Not to a channel, but to the tribunal that keeps issuing verdicts. The next case is already being prepared. The next document is already being written. Stay close so it finds you when it is ready. And if someone came to mind while reading this, someone whose name is being managed right now by a version of what was done to you, someone who is still inside the manufactured confusion, wondering why the path is this heavy, someone who has started to believe the constructed version of themselves over the real one, send this to them without explanation. Just place the case file in their hands. The tribunal reaches further through you than it can reach alone. Go collect what is yours. Chosen one.